Hello, my fellow seekers. Welcome to Into the Work, therapy for empaths, seekers, and the intuitively driven, where you have front row seats to therapy sessions and expert interviews that will help you define the important work that you're here to do. So I guess you actually have something better than front row seats. You practically have a seat on my couch. That's right, you will have unrestricted access to actual sessions with real people, exploring real life issues. You will continue to be inspired by powerful conversations with experts and healers that might just share exactly what it is that you need to hear to get unstuck. I am Michelle Pauverman. I am a recovering people pleaser and former anxiety-driven empath, turned now mostly grounded psychotherapist and intuitive coach. I have been helping people for almost 20 years manage their limiting beliefs and anxiety to finally stop the self-sabotage and step into their gifts. I created this podcast, Into the Work, to give you a place to learn more about yourself and give you actionable strategies to finally move those roadblocks holding you back so you can go for what you want. Above all else, my hope is that this podcast is a catalyst for your awakening. If you're listening, you've already taken a step towards getting off of autopilot, and our next steps together will be taken episode by episode, waking you up to the possibilities, the new ways of thinking and being, so that you can stretch into that next level of your story. The spark has already been lit, and my friend, this is a journey from spark to brilliance. So together, let's light a fire. Hey there, welcome back to the show. I have something a little different today for you. I am bringing you in on the conversation that I just had. It was an interview with me by Jess Reid in her Wild Wellness Women's Group. And she's creating this really beautiful community. And right now she's offering all these really beautiful free offerings. So I want to make sure you know about it so you can also check them out. In the show notes, all the good stuff will be there for you to be able to check out Jess's new free offerings before that ends. All right. And so this is a conversation all about Reiki, and it is going to be for anybody on the spectrum. You can be somebody that's totally new to Reiki, or you can be a Reiki master yourself and find lots of tidbits in this that are just going to juice you up, get you thinking and experiencing what your knowledge base is of intuition and energy healing and working with energy and what that even means. And we break it down. And Jess herself is a Reiki master. And so we have some really great conversations, and I didn't want to miss the opportunity to share this with you guys. So with no further ado, let's go ahead and jump in.
Welcome in to How Does Reiki Work? And some of you are here as members of my Wild Wellness Women's Circle already, and some of you are here as guests today. All are welcome. I'm so excited for you to meet Michelle, if you don't already know her or follow her podcast or whatnot. So I am actually a Reiki master, and I'm just really excited for Michelle to share her wisdom with the group. And there's always more to learn when it comes to anything. So I kind of feel a little bit uncomfortable with the term Reiki master, actually, just because it seems so like official or fun, like I've mastered this. Like, no, I haven't. But I did the training, right? You kind of move through, and there's Reiki 1 and Reiki 2 and Reiki Master and so on and so forth. But I do want to share that when I very first encountered it, I was like super weirded out and skeptical and so on and so forth. But I also have a religious background. I grew up in like the most woo-woo of all of the Christian denominations, Pentecostalism, and they believe in spontaneous, miraculous healings. And so I actually grew up in church with that belief system. And I even had witnessed it. And I even had personally experienced healings. I was actually deaf as a child and spontaneously was healed in church with the laying on of hands and praying over me. And so as much as I've changed all of my beliefs and played with different things, there's just some life experiences that you literally can't talk yourself out of, no matter how skeptical you might feel. And so there was also just kind of that familiarity with like, oh, this is just like what I grew up with. It's just a different name for it. It's a different way of describing it or practicing it or whatnot. So that's my experience with it and kind of like the resistance, but also like the draw that I felt towards it. So for those of you who are not as familiar with me, and probably a lot of people are going to be watching this replay who may or may not be super familiar with me already, because I did open this up to my community, to my podcast, and then we've got Michelle's community who's going to watch the replay later. So I just wanted to take a second to introduce myself. I'm Jess Reid. I am obviously a women's circle facilitator. I'm also a psychedelic retreat facilitator, a growth guide, and a wild wellness coach. I've been doing all of this since 2017, since my daughter was first born, and now she's 8. It's wild. So I invite others to come home to the wisdom of nature and their intuition to create a life they actually like. And I very first met Michelle on LinkedIn. I just was like hanging out there at the time. I don't really hang out there as much, but it was totally kismet because I saw her profile that she was a therapist, that she was an energy healer, and that she was in Massachusetts. And I was like, what? Because I'm originally from Massachusetts. I'm into the whole life coach and studied, got my master's in counseling, but non-clinical counseling, and, you know, the Reiki in common. And I was like, I need to meet her. So I reached out. I was like, hey, I promise I'm not selling anything. I just genuinely think you're cool and would love to connect with you. And then not too long after that, I noticed that she was starting a podcast and she was looking for guests. And so I pitched myself to be a guest. I was her very first guest. I'm so honored to do that. Her podcast is amazing. Everybody should check it out. It's called Into the Work. Therapy for empaths and seekers. She does a really cool mixture of like sharing client sessions with their permission, of course, but you can really resonate with that. And then she also talks about so many amazing, helpful things, especially boundaries. And we all need help with that. And so, yeah, I just really hit it off with Michelle. We talked about the soul of weight loss. We talked about healing body objectification over on her podcast. I shared that on my podcast too. But yeah, Michelle is a person who I'm super excited to have teach in my community. So obviously she's a Reiki practitioner as well. She teaches other people to become Reiki practitioners. She teaches all sorts of cool classes online and holds group healing ceremonies sometimes too. And then of course, she has a whole personal life outside of her work. She is a mom, and we can all relate to wearing a lot of hats, right? But our calling is actually the expression of our spiritual gifts. That's what I've come to realize. Our gifts, our skills kind of are what other people see, but our gifts are what underlies our skills. And it's like the through line of all of the hats that we wear throughout the course of our lives. And my spiritual gifts have been expressed through so many different roles that I've worn in my life and my work. And more than seeing myself as a coach or a facilitator or an entrepreneur or whatever, I have some spiritual gifts that I would love to share as I see myself. And then I would love to ask Michelle to share how she sees her spiritual gifts as kind of being the through line for all the hats that she wears. But my gifts and my calling, as I understand them, is being able to see people in a way that they can't see themselves. I love to be a mirror of unconditional love for other people because we've just been taught not to see the truth about ourselves. We talk a lot about the shadow, right? And like it feels kind of like icky, scary, whatever. But I really believe, and actually Carl Jung taught this too. He said the majority of what is in people's shadow is actually like light. It's called the golden shadow. It's the gifts and it's our strengths that we've actually become disconnected from because at some point people made us feel like it was too much or not welcomed or whatever. But our wounds and our gifts lie right next to each other in our lives. And so I love to be that mirror that helps people to reconnect and come home to those things about themselves, to have that self-awareness and also the self-compassion and actually really like themselves again. And I love to be a portal of transformation to help people connect with their own internal authority. We are so conditioned to submit ourselves to all sorts of forms of external authority. And this is where we really lose our way and start to feel all of the ways we really don't want to be feeling in our lives. And we've been taught not to trust ourselves. And that's part of my story as well, being brought up in a really high control religion and then coming home and realizing, oh my gosh, it's just love and it all lives inside of me. I have no reason to not trust what's inside of me. But I was taught that there was some difference between the two. So I love to lift the veil of illusion from other people's eyes to really help us disconnect from this unhelpful conditioning and like the systems and the environments around us. And I love to call people forward back into alignment with their own values and their own intuition and actually enjoy their lives. So that's a little bit about me for those of you who don't know me yet. And Michelle, I'll ask you to share more about like your formal background and training and all of that in a little bit. But I'd love to hear a little bit about what you see as some of your spiritual gifts that are like the through line for everything you do.
Well, first, I think I just want to say that one of your spiritual gifts is also articulation and
Oh,
communication.
cool. Oh, thank
Right?
you.
Right, guys? Like, oh my God. Like what she just put together was probably took her 5 minutes. And it was this beautiful, expansive, like very articulate. And, language is really important to how we experience other people, how we express ourselves. You have words. And that is just something that's one of your gifts is
Thank
that
you.
there's a creative flow in it, right?
Mm.
So, so I'm not going to be as eloquent, but so I have a lot of, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term clairs. So they're basically your psychic gifts. So they're like
Mhm.
you're seeing, you're knowing, whether you have auditory, whether you kind of pick up intuition auditorily, or if you pick up, information from just like sensing and knowing. If My biggest gift is that I am what I refer to as like an empath. And so I happen to have all those clairs. I think a lot of us do and have no idea about it. And so one of my spiritual gifts is
Yep.
really when I meet people, I feel them, I sense them, I see them, I hear them. I'm literally getting all the information. So my gift is kind of to see people in their totality versus like, my reaction to them or being caught up in how I'm perceiving or how I'm reacting to them. So I think that this is a gift that a lot of us who are empaths have, and you don't realize it. You've never really put a word to it where you're like, I sense people. Like I feel them when they come in the room. I sense and feel people when I'm with them. People are like, wow, you get me. It's crazy. Like you just said that because that's what I've been thinking in my head for a week. And I think a lot of us very sensitive, you're here because you're sensitive, right? I mean, you're here because you wouldn't sign up for something like this if you weren't that I think you're into the vibration of other people and you just don't realize it. And that's one of my gifts is really I love helping women go inward, stop their indecision, stop their self-doubt, learn how to have boundaries. And honestly, I say this and it seems so simple, but it's very difficult and complicated for many of us is to step into your power. My
Yes.
whole thing for what I do in this world is to help women step into their power, understand what that means, understand when they're giving it away, understand what it means to like actually stand in it, how that completely changes their life in beautiful ways. And so that's sort of, I guess, if I could wrap it all up with a bow, I'd say that's pretty much it.
I love that. Yeah, definitely. Like that's your life theme is
It
helping women
is.
step into their
Yes.
power and no matter what you're doing, like that's the through line behind all of it. Yeah, and I love that you talk about the psychic abilities, the clairs. So I actually just dropped this link in the chat. I'll share it in the Cohere community section later for those of you listening to the playback, but I'm going to say it out loud too. It's a free Discover Your Spiritual Gifts class that I've put together. And so it's at bit.ly, discover your spiritual gifts. So if you haven't taken these tests yet, I would love to introduce you to them. It's a bunch of just free online tests that you can take. And I think that sometimes we forget, but like in more of our professional training, some of us have probably taken like personality tests and things like this, but these things are your spiritual gifts. Like whether it's the Myers-Briggs or whether it's the high five strength or strengths finder or whatever it is. So I kind of like to start there and get people like a little bit less woo-woo and then move them along the spectrum of woo-woo all the way to actually understanding what your psychic abilities are. So I actually have a Claire's quiz in there as well that my Reiki teacher shared with me and gave me permission to share. So if you're curious what kind of psychic abilities you might have, like Michelle was saying, like see things, hear things, know things, smell things, taste things, like some people feel things very physically in their body. And so it's a free quiz that you can take. So yeah, I think the more that we connect with our own spiritual gifts, that is what helps us to step into our power. And it's very on theme here with talking about energy. Here, we're going to talk about Reiki. I think we are all healers, actually. And we all bring healing to the people in our lives. And we are healed by the people in our lives. The same way we are experience wounding through others, we experience healing through others. And so we're going to talk more about that. But I wanted to share this free class to make sure that everybody enjoy this free class, but also you can deepen into your own capacity to work with energy and understand your own abilities as well, whether you do anything formal Reiki training or not. But I also just wanted to mention the Women's Circle, the Wild Wellness Women's Circle. It's a place for woo-woo women to make new friends and to be loving witnesses to each other's transformation. All beliefs are welcome here. We've had everyone from nuns to witches who feel comfortable being a part of the group, and we have shared values more so than shared beliefs. And we just adore each other in our full authenticity, have actual conversations. You get to hear the wisdom coming out of your own mouth, and we're just loving witnesses for each other. So let's get into our actual interview with Michelle. I'm so excited for her to share her expertise with us here today. Michelle, would you just start us off by telling us a little bit about how you became a therapist? Like what made you want to become a therapist? How you got into Reiki and energy healing as well? And how did you first discover it? How has it been a blessing in your life? Just kind of fill us in. Yeah.
Sure. So my story to become a therapist is pretty simple. I received an 8th grade superlative that said that I'm going to be a therapist in a counseling center.
No way.
Yes. I was moving to Colorado at one point, and this was after college, and I was cleaning out my old bedroom, and I found the book, and I was like, that's so funny. So that is just, I think some of us do have the fortunate ability to go out in the world and be who we are. And I think that's the goal for all of us, to really get out in the world and be who I am.
Yes.
How do I get paid for that? How do I create a life around that?
Yes.
And that's like that is key to our purpose and being here and finding that. So that I have the gift of that. My line was pretty straightforward. I mean, I lived out in Colorado. I worked for the state of Colorado, saw some terrible things as a social worker and realized I could not do that. I was seeing the darkness of society, right? I was seeing the darkness of our world. And I was like, some people have a foot in the door of darkness and a foot in the door of light, and they're freaking powerful, and it's amazing. I'm not quite like that. Like I need thrive in the light. So I realized that I was not getting the connection with people, which is one of my gifts, is like to connect with people. I wasn't getting it. So as I moved home, went back to grad school, decided I'm absolutely becoming a therapist. Finally, I know I've been thinking about it my whole life. I finally said yes. And I was out one day for a run, and I remember I was pushing myself a bit. I was on like a 2.5 mile run, and I suddenly realized that something really weird was happening to my body, and my leg was going numb as I was running. And then as I was trying to push through it, as you do, right? I'm just like, push through it, push through it, push through it. I still had like a mile uphill left, right? And all of a sudden, it just really started to feel like my leg was heavy, but wasn't going to hold me anymore. And my entire leg went completely numb. I had to drag it home. And believe it or not, I was like embarrassed. One would be worried, but my people pleaser craziness, like wondering what everybody was thinking about me dragging my leg home. Is someone going to stop and ask me if I need a ride? And I was embarrassed by that, which, right? But then I discovered later on that I had Lyme disease, and that I had a slew of other issues that was just taking over my body. And it was going to be, they told me it was going to be a 2 to 3 year battle. And I was like, I'm giving you 1 year. And on the date of 1 year is when I actually healed. No joke. But it was very intense, and I was very sick. And I had little guys. So my kids were like 3 and 5 or something. And so what I did was, one of my friends was like, she called me and was like, you need to take my appointment with this healer. She's a healer. She's a psychic. You need to go see her. It took me 2 months to like get in with her, but I'm giving you my appointment. It's tomorrow night. And I was like, what?
Wow.
I took it, and I showed up there, and she looked at me and she said, you're an empath. And I was like, a what? She's like, you're an empath. And I was like, oh, I have heard of that. And she was like, let me tell you, boom, 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 boom. And I was like, whoa. And she's like, you have a lot of pain, people in pain in your life right now. My mother-in-law had lung cancer. She was dying. My husband was distraught out trying to take care of me and his mother at the same time as an only child. My whole life was falling apart. My father-in-law was losing his feet because he had diabetes. Like, I didn't know that all that was happening around me was affecting my health, because I'm an empath. I'm porous. I'm feeling and collecting other people's energies. I had no idea that I was doing that. And so I actually recognized that was why I needed Reiki. So she was a Reiki teacher, and she said, come to my class tonight. And I showed up. And I
Wow.
went, which is, by the way, with Lyme, like I would sleep in the car for a half an hour before I walked in anywhere. Like I couldn't walk in somewhere unless I had taken a nap because I drove, because that was a lot. So that's how bad I felt when I left Reiki class. The music was blasting. I was singing like I was on American Idol. And I was like, what the F just happened to me? So Reiki was a massive part of my healing.
Yeah.
And I knew that I could never, and I'd been a therapist for already 12 years or something. Was not currently working at the time, but I knew that I could never go back to work the same again. It was
Mm.
just life changing. How could I not do this and help people? So I have a
Yeah.
practice now where I do therapy. We do 90-minute sessions. I do therapy as well as healing. I know you had put in one of those questions you might ask me in
Mhm.
terms of how do I do both, but
Yeah.
we kind of break it up where we talk a little bit and then we do energy work. Reiki and a
Wow.
couple other things. Yeah. So that's my
Wow.
story.
Your story is so beautiful and wild. And when you were talking about um, being porous
Mhm.
and other people's stuff affecting your physical health, I just had full body chills because I feel like there are some people that really need to hear that, whether you're
Yes.
here today or whether you're listening to this playback later. Like to make that connection is so, so important. And that, here we are. I'm all about doing all the things like holistic health, like change the foods that you're eating. Yes, set boundaries in your life, but also energetic practices is something that I only learned about, in the last probably 5 years, right? And it completely changed my life. And, I'm really excited for Michelle to be able to speak more to this today. But it also doesn't mean that, we're only doing energy healing, right? Like, oh, energy healing solves all the problems in life. Like, no, Michelle is a therapist as well as an energy healer. And so there's a huge benefit to actually, talk therapy, right? But then also energy healing. And so since Michelle referenced this, yes, this was one of the questions that I wanted to ask you because obviously you've got like the whole Western medical model training of being a therapist, right? And like evidence-based practice and all of this stuff. And then you've got your life experience of how Reiki was so powerfully helpful for you. You've probably seen it help so many of your clients. How do you know which one is needed at which time?
Well, neither one is wrong. And a lot of times I let my clients choose. I say, what do you feel like today? And they will tell me, they're like, I need to get this out, Michelle. And so if we have time, then we'll do more stuff. Sometimes they're like, I need to get this out of my body, Michelle, right?
Hmm.
So, the thing is that we have energetic attachments. So when I talked about like being chronically ill, right, for a little
Hmm.
while, not forever. I like to always like claim that, not forever. But
Yes.
when we do that, a lot of us, I don't know if any of you have ever had anything that's been wacky going on. You don't know what it is. And like you go to all the doctors, nobody knows. It's like those mysterious things. Those are like the best things for energy work because we have all
Hmm.
the energetic attachments to illness. And so one of the things I will ask my client, if you don't mind me just sharing this little tidbit, I will
Please
ask
do.
my clients when they come in, if they aren't feeling well and it's chronic, and they're always women, and they're always tend to have a little bit of that people pleasing, overgiving, overextending parts of themselves. There's been resentment building up in the body. Most things that are illness have an emotional tie to them. So we have these sort of energies that are emotional in the body. And so I'll usually say, hopefully they like me enough at this point. Hopefully they trust me enough at this point. Sometimes I share it on the first session because I don't know if I'm going to see them again or not, or what, if I'm just like
Yeah.
a one hitter. So I will say to you, what is it about this that is serving you? And I know that's really hard to answer. And you can feel like a
Hmm.
victim because that's the biggest thing that's being triggered in us when we're not well or experiencing any pain emotionally too. We just have this huge wound. And so it's hard to take any type of responsibility in that moment. But I carefully say that because a lot of us have these energetic attachments. Because how are you getting, when I look at myself, how was I getting my needs met when everybody
Hmm.
around me was sick and I was overextending myself because my husband was never around because he was taking care of his mother who was getting chemo, right? Like, so we have ways to try to create stuff in our lives because everything is energetic. We have ways that we create stuff in our lives that in order to serve our needs. I needed needs. I had needs that need to be met, and I didn't know how to meet them because I didn't have good
Yeah.
boundaries. I didn't know how to articulate what my needs were. I just kept like going and going and going. And that's what illness taught me. That's what energy work taught me, is that, oh, I have some say here. This is what I have, a need that's being met. And now I can look at that and do the healing work, and I can get better. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes. And again, I had just like full body chills when you were asking that simple question. I feel like this is going to be a really powerful realization or reframe for a lot of people to take, that is stepping into your power, actually, to be
100%.
willing to ask yourself, what role might I be playing as the creator of my life in bringing this about for my own good?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I'm not here
Yes.
hurting myself. I'm never actually hurting myself. I'm always helping myself because I am love. And that's what love does. And sometimes love just needs to get louder to get our attention, right? Because sometimes we ignore the little tap on the shoulder. And so then love starts to shake us by the shoulders, right? And we create sometimes for ourselves from love a crisis. Because that is the point at which actually everything comes together and metabolizes enough for us to be open to receive a miracle. And you were in such a state of crisis, and here comes your friend. There's love just like saying, here you go, and you can have my appointment. And then this person with all of these gifts just tells you, is this perfect mirror for you, like it is. And then the whole trajectory of your life is completely changed, and you walk into becoming an energy healer for other people, right? And it's not just love for you, it's love for all of the people that are helped by your story of pain and transformation as well. Responsibility and being willing to ask, how might I be creating this for me? What part of me is actually being helped by me being in pain? And like you made that connection of like, you had needs that were not being met. And so you suffering from chronic illness and actually having like a diagnosis was enough to legitimize in the eyes of yourself and the eyes of other people in your life. Oh yeah, Michelle's a person too. Oh yeah,
Yes.
Michelle actually has real needs and isn't just like this like flawless, invincible, never running out of energy, superhero. And that is what actually allowed you to see yourself differently and come to that breaking point, and also for other people in your life probably to realize, oh yeah, I need to respect the boundaries that Michelle is about to implement because yeah, she counts too.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even if you look at like autoimmune diseases and things like that, 80% of the people who have them are women.
Yes.
And they did this massive research to show that these women are frustrated, they're angry, they're unhappy in their marriages, they're resentful, they don't set boundaries, they overgive, they overextend, they are always right. So it's like this, yeah. And so it is this awakening. It can be. So I don't know if you're experiencing anything like this in your life, or if you do in the future, just know that this can be an awakening, and it can be something that just blows your life up into something really beautiful.
Yeah.
If you can step into that, it's work. It's not that it's not, and it's not like, there isn't a reality, and it's not valid that you're sick and it's not okay.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, everything is energy. Of course, we're not saying it's not real. We're not saying like something physiological isn't actually happening. Like, no, it totally is. But everything that it is energetic as well as the foundation. So let's get into that a little bit. So like, okay. Reiki. Maybe could you tell us, first of all, for somebody who is like, what even is Reiki? I'm sure some people have some familiarity with it, but what is it? Where did it originate? Like, where did this term come from? It's such a weird term, right? Like, and obviously it's a different language, right? So like, where did this come from? Where did it originate? And basically, how does it work? Like, maybe if you want to try to describe it from different aspects, like physiologically, energetically, even magically.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's so many ways to look at it. So I'll try to be succinct though. So Reiki is basically it's originated in Japan. Rei means universal and ki means universal life force, right? And ki means energy. So it's really just that you're using universal life force energy. Now I want you to just imagine that you right now, without knowing it, are kind of in a sea. You're swimming in a sea. We're kind of in a trance here. Like we don't realize that there's a lot going on around us. There's all this speed of light energy. There's all these molecules of energy everywhere. There's all these colors everywhere. So I think when we pass on, we get a chance to see how crazy that all looks. But here we don't see that, right? And so we don't recognize that you have all this life force energy around you. And you can utilize that, Reiki or no Reiki. You can start to try to breathe it in. You can start to work with it. Anyways, when you look at Reiki and how it's being done, people are trained to utilize that life force energy that's specifically attuned to Reiki. And so what I mean by that is when you get trained in Reiki, you are receiving what's called an attunement. And what that is they go ahead and take these sacred symbols that are specific to Reiki. Now, they put them into the body. That's literally what they do. Like when I'm doing a Reiki attunement, I'm taking these symbols, I'm inserting them into your energy system. Your energy system then shifts and changes with these symbols. And you might have like a life force energy, like maybe like that runs down the center of your body. And with Reiki 1 and 2, as you keep getting attunements, it gets more open and open. It can be detoxifying. Sometimes the first Reiki 1 tends to be physical symptoms. You start to feel like sluggish and gross afterwards. And then you have like, I feel amazing. The detoxing of the attunement can be emotional. So after you receive that attunement, you can be like, I cried and I fell in love with, I have my favorite story is someone in my Reiki class came back after Reiki 2, after having her attunement. We all went home, came back the next week. And she was like, Michelle, I fell in love with my toothbrush. I sat there and I wept in my bathroom, and what an amazing tool it was. And my heart was like, oh, I'm just so grateful. That's Reiki.
Yeah.
Reiki is actually known as being at the same vibration as love. That's what's very specific to Reiki. And Reiki, its heritage and how it comes along is that I've been trained in Usi Reiki, which is the traditional Reiki. And that Reiki dates back 2,500 years, like before the time of Buddha. Like this dates back, it's very old. People don't realize that. Usi was the name of the monk who brought it back to Japan. He went on a voyage to try to understand why Jesus and why the Buddha were healing people but not dying. They had leprosy, people, they were dealing with trying to heal all these people and they weren't getting sick. So then he went up to the top of this beautiful mountain. He did his meditation. He received these symbols, and God, source, spirit told him, take these and bring them back to your people. So he worked with it. People were lining up in the neighborhoods down the street to see him, and he eventually created Reiki. Now, this got passed down in his lineage and was brought to the United States. And so I will just tell you really quickly, this is actually a fun fact not a lot of people know. And the woman who brought it over, she brought it to Hawaii, right, from Japan. Then she brought it to the mainland. And what was going on here in 1980, she died in 1980. By then, do you know how much it cost to be trained in Reiki in 1980? I was alive in 1980. It was $10,000.
Wow.
Yes.
Now you can learn it free on YouTube.
Right? So she brought it over and she was like owning it. And she was like, hardcore, this will be $10,000. She made sure every student was only allowed to sell it for $10,000. Only a select few would be able to do this. When she taught the symbols, you had to rip them up before you could leave in front of her. You were never allowed to share symbols. And my lineage my teacher was Diane Stein. I just am sharing this story because it's actually funny. It was like this whistleblower. She wanted to get in. She wanted to learn it, but this woman would not let her learn it. She was like, no, because she doesn't have $10,000. So she eventually manipulated somebody to teach it. And as soon as she learned it, she got a microphone, went out to the parks and said, who wants to learn Reiki? And started teaching hundreds of people. So she was like the whistleblower. But anyways, fun fact. But reality is that with Reiki, you are learning to work with energy. And you are here because you are, like I said, you wouldn't be here if you didn't already sense and feel energy. Maybe you don't realize it. Maybe you do. But working and sensing with energy is part of your nervous system. It's part of your energy system. You probably are an empath, a sensitive soul, a seeker, somebody who is drawn a little bit to this stuff. So you come in and your energy field is already about healing people. And so learning Reiki teaches you actually how to do it effectively.
Mm.
It teaches you how to use the energy and work with it. I usually tell people for like layman's terms, so it's not too overwhelming, like think of it this way, that your energy system, you have bioelectricity running through your body. It's how
Mhm.
your heart pumps. It's how
Mhm.
your cells work. It's how every single thing in your body works.
Mhm.
And we can measure it, like we can see how many gigahertz it is.
Mhm.
So if you were to get a tumor or you were to get sick, we could measure that tumor, the gigahertz, goes down. The
Mhm.
energy in your body goes down, it gets lower. And so when we do Reiki, we're literally trained to raise that energy up so that we could measure it again and see that your numbers are higher.
Mhm.
Now, it sounds very like, okay, so I have all this electricity running through me, so what? But what ends up happening when you raise that electricity, all of a sudden, these things that are low vibration, like sadness, depression, anxiety, irritability, mood, something that happened to you 15 years ago that's still inside the body,
Mhm.
trauma, it starts to raise up
Mm.
and therefore it starts to break up.
Yeah.
And so we see this energy breaking up. And so as we say, we release blocks
Mm.
because all that stuff that was blocking your energy system, we work with the chakras in Reiki, was not allowing things to flow normal or regularly, right? And
Yep.
so that's kind of how I describe it. It's like we're just raising that vibration measurably and it's breaking stuff up in the body. And all of a sudden your heart opens for the first time. You're like, oh my gosh, I feel so good. Your brain is clear. We see blood flow changing, immune system. It does a lot to the parasympathetic nervous system. So deep relaxation happens. The most common thing I think people here have experienced Reiki. I know you have somebody that's been trained in it. The most common experience that I think people have with Reiki is they feel like are 1,000 pounds on the table. And they're
Mhm.
like, I don't know if I could move. You could ask me, Michelle, but I don't think I can move my arm just yet. That's how
Mhm.
heavy
Mhm.
it feels. But that's actually a beautiful state to be in because that heaviness is so much good stuff going on during that. Reiki can also feel like water running through your body. Another
Mhm.
mysterious thing that happens, you can feel me over here working on your shoulder, but you're like, how are you also at my foot? Because I know I 100% would put money down that you're at my foot too, and I don't
Mhm.
understand how. And so we have helpers in Reiki. And so here's the magical part, right? We have helpers, we have guides that come in and help us. You all have them, they're already all around you. You may not have tapped into it, maybe you have, but all of us have this energy, these guides around us. We can start to, ask questions, things like that. When you're doing Reiki, sometimes you can even call in, you know, loved ones to help. Like I can just be like, hey, all hands on deck. This is a really big deal. I need as many people
Mhm.
here as possible. And they'll be
Mhm.
like, I feel like there's like 10 people with their hands on me today, Michelle. It's crazy, right? So
Mm.
there's a lot of beautiful, magical things. And can we explain them all? No. But they're pretty magical. But does that help? Does that feel
Oh my
clear?
gosh, yes. So many interesting things that you shared. And I want to reference back to a couple of the things you said just to kind of like add to it a little bit because
Mhm.
I always tend to take the perspective of not that I'm a skeptic any longer, but I was at first, right? And so I'm always thinking, what is a skeptic thinking right now? And so you mentioned like some of the sacred symbols, right? And I want to just like bring about some other examples because yes, there are very specific sacred symbols in Reiki that a Reiki practitioner is trained in and puts into the person, right? So I'm thinking like, what is somebody thinking? Like, what symbol is this? I don't want this like symbol put into me without me knowing what it is, right? But we have so many sacred symbols in our cosmology and our understanding, and even in our Western perspective, that we use all the time and maybe don't even really think about it. But even just think about a cross, right? People wear a cross around their neck because of the symbolism and the meaning. You believe literally when you put that cross on your neck, if you're a Christian, right, that it holds some type of special meaning. And maybe even power, right? That like a metaphysical power that when you put on that necklace, maybe because you have something going on that day, you're going to like want some protection or you're going to want some extra peace with you or whatever it might be, right? That we would do that. Or wear the Star of David, or even like our wedding rings. It's a circle, right? It's a symbol of eternity. Or when you see the infinity symbol, or whatever it might be, like people get tattoos all the time of symbols that mean something to them, right? So I don't want people to get super freaked out by like the actual sacred symbol aspect of it, but to look at this is something that humans do. We language is limiting, and we create art, and that piece of art holds so much more information in it that the artist put into it than what we can even comprehend, but we pick up on it on like some type of a different level of understanding when we look at a symbol, right? So I thought about that, and then there was something else that you said, but it's like escaping me. So I'm just going to move to the next question, and I think it'll probably maybe come back to me. But I wanted to start there with the sacred symbols. So from a skeptic perspective as well, there is this idea of the placebo effect, right? And science has literally validated the placebo effect. And so I'm curious, because you also have this like Western training as a evidence-based therapist. What role do you think the placebo effect might actually be playing in Reiki?
So in the world of energy psychology, we love the placebo effect. We like try to get the placebo effect, right? So sometimes when we're talking about placebo effect, we're talking about belief.
Yeah.
Okay. So like, I'm not going to lie. I have clients that truly believe that I'm going to heal them no matter what.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, Michelle, I'm about to lose my finger. I'm at the emergency room. Can you just heal this? And I'm like, I don't know. Right. I'm also not the healer. When it comes to Reiki, we learn that we are just the vessel, right? So like it's
Yes.
whatever we trust, whatever comes through is what you need. Just to clarify. But those people who 100% believe that I'm going to heal them, 99% of the time will be like, hey, my finger's back on. Like, I can't believe how you did that. I'm like, wow. I'm in disbelief all the time, because again, I'm observing and I'm watching. I'm not just like the end all, right? So like I'm the vessel. So yeah. So placebo effect. It's real. It's true. I would liken it to your daily meditation practice. If you meditate and visualize yourself experiencing an amazing day, that this incredible stuff's about to happen in your life. Today is the day. 9 times out of 10, something really incredible is going to happen in your life because you're going to sense, feel, and perceive it that way. And not only that, but our body does not respond differently to what it's perceived and what it believes is true. So if you tell yourself that I had a mole on my face, you guys. You can see earlier pictures of me, and I have a mole right here. It's covered up with makeup a lot, but I had a mole, and every day I just told it, oh, you're not supposed to be here, you're gone. And I would do Reiki on it. You're not supposed to be here, you're gone. I believed wholeheartedly that this mole was going to fall off my face. And no joke, I have pictures of it like half hanging on.
Wow.
It literally just fell off in a week's span. It was during the pandemic, and they wouldn't see me at the dermatologist's office because nobody wanted to see anybody. And I was like, I have to. And so I started doing that. It was kind of gross because there was like bleeding around it, but it fell off my face.
Wow.
Because I believed so wholeheartedly that I knew that it would. And I do believe that there is such power in belief. There is a book called The Biology of Belief that is
Bruce Lipton.
Yep, Bruce Lipton. He does an amazing amount of work there. There is some really powerful things around believing things, you guys. So what do I say about the placebo effect? I say, bring it on. Fantastic. Those are the best clients because so many cool things are going to happen for them. Can it get in the way if somebody is skeptical? Sure, because if your energy system is constricted, how much can you take in, right? And so I'm constantly working with people on, can you go from having this very constricted, grouchy, I'm low moods, I'm tired, I'm pessimistic, I'm right, like I'm living in a place that's not, expansive. I'm seeing a lot of the bad. It's so easy right now in our world to experience certain things like this, depending on who you are and what you believe, what you're associated with. But when somebody can start to move, that's why therapy is helpful with energy work, because when we can work on the mind and help them open up to seeing and believing and stepping into their personal power and stepping into being a magical being and starting to shift into that, then the healings get even better. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I remembered that one of the things that you said earlier was about how Reiki works with the chakras. And we unfortunately don't have time to get into like what are all the chakras and all of that today. But for anybody who wants to dig in more, I wanted to mention that I have another free class where I actually had a certified yoga instructor explain all of like the philosophical underpinnings of yoga and all of the 8 limbs of yoga, of which the movements are just one, the asanas is just one. And in it, she actually talks through all of the chakras. So for anybody who is, here right now or is listening to the playback later, I will share that link in the Cohere platform as well, so that you can go check out that other free class and learn more about the chakras and how all of that works. Another thing I wanted to mention is the HeartMath Institute. And the HeartMath Institute, because Michelle was talking about everything is energy, everything is frequency, and it can literally be measured, right? And so in the HeartMath Institute, basically they practice kind of like loving kindness meditation, and they direct it at a recipient. And the more people actually come together and all direct their energy at this recipient, they will measure the person's heart electricity using an EKG before and after the experience. And they can literally measure that the energy field of the heart expands, that the EKG reading actually gets elevated. And so when Michelle is talking about raising someone's frequency through intention is what she's doing in Reiki. And this is what all Reiki practitioners are doing. The HeartMath Institute, they don't call it Reiki, but it is essentially the same thing. They might not be like laying hands over, but they are using their intention and directing their energy and the power that we all hold as creators and energy beings. And they are influencing someone else's energetic field, and it can actually be measured. So this is really, really fascinating. And Michelle, I was wondering if you could explain from your perspective, and maybe, I don't know if you've had to reconcile this with your own, perhaps if you had a religious upbringing or anything like that, but what would you describe as maybe the difference between, because I shared at the beginning, for those of you who hopped on, I shared at the beginning that I grew up in a very high control religion, right? But it was also super woo-woo. It was like Pentecostal Christian, and they believed in miraculous, spontaneous healings, laying on of hands and all of that. And so when I discovered Reiki, I was like, oh, this is just like this. So have you had to reconcile Reiki with any kind of religious upbringing? And now, whether you have or haven't, is there a difference between Reiki and prayer? And if so, how would you describe it?
So I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school, 1st through 8th. And so I had a strong influence there growing up. But I think I felt really connected to God growing up. I felt really connected to source growing up, whatever you call it. And I would have conversations every day. I would be like, please don't make me take this math test. Right. And then the next day they'd be like, we canceled the math test. I'm like, thank you. You listened. I really believe that they listened to me.
Yeah.
And so I connected more with that than actually the religion. And I found I was a budding feminist, and I was having hard times with the religion piece of it because of how I was perceiving it, how it was being delivered to me. So that being said, there was a coming out of the closet. I think there is for people who are traditionally something, even as a therapist, I kind of had to come out to my colleagues. I'm changing things up, people. And, I think we do have to shift. There is this way that Reiki now is so much more accepted. So most of the hospitals all have what they call CAM units, these complementary, right? Basically, it's mostly Reiki. And they're seeing that Reiki literally gets people off pain medication after surgery. They're doing it. They're seeing it. I have nurses that I've met along the way. They're like, oh my God, you do Reiki. Let me tell you this crazy story. However, the Catholic hospitals are still not doing it because there's so much fear that Reiki is somehow related to a deity, to something evil. And it literally has zero connection. In fact, Reiki is actually there to support and help you manifest any kind of spiritual journey in your life, period. It is not about what you believe and what you should believe. It is only about expanding your energy to open you up to whatever is going to serve your heart to become who you're here to become, right? That's my feeling around it.
Yeah.
And so how do I reconcile that? I think that I've just been called to it since I was so young. I remember reading tarot cards when I was in my teens. I remember feeling like I feel drawn to the magical pieces of things versus, what this white man is talking to me about in my school. And at the time, it was very patriarchal in the school that I went to and you know how they delivered that information. It's not always the case. But so anyways, I don't know, what was the last part? Was there another piece there?
Would you say, are there any differences between Reiki and prayer then?
So I would say on a very technical, this would be my delivery of that answer.
Okay.
So it would be that, yes, it is. Because prayer is there, and there's so many things that are absolutely aligned and how they're very similar. But Reiki is different from anything else because you are attuned to a specific vibration of love, and you are utilizing that specific vibration that's been running through you, and it allows you to work through your hands. And it's specific to Reiki energy. Because I do 3 different modalities, I sense and feel how different they are. And so for you guys, if you're thinking about this, like, prayer can also heal people. You can put your hands on people and pray. And you can also just funnel energy. I had somebody just the other day say to me, "Oh my God, I started using Reiki. I healed my broken arm." The doctors were incredible. I said, "Oh, you know Reiki? Have you been trained?" And they were like, "Oh no, I never got any training." So a lot of people use the word Reiki because it's all energy work. It can seem like that. But there is something specific about Reiki that I like to hold a little bit sacred because it is have a different flavor, has a little different sensory experience of running Reiki through you than just prayer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. As someone who's also a Reiki practitioner, I agree that it has a different flavor to it. And at times I pray and at times I do Reiki. One thing that I really appreciate about Reiki, in the sense that prayer as I was taught it growing up, is different than prayer as I practice it today. So I'll say that. But I think when typically most people think about prayer, they think about petitioning a stronger power bigger than them to act on our behalf. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when I'm doing Reiki, I actually feel a unity with all of the power of the universe that flows through me. And I do believe that it's the same loving power as when I pray to God, like, hey, act on my behalf. But I feel like I'm becoming a vessel for that healing to flow through, as opposed to just a recipient of something. So I'm receiving at the same time that I'm giving. It's hard to explain, but yeah, it's like asking.
That's what's really cool about Reiki is that you receive a healing when you give a healing. And so people are like, "Oh my God, Michelle, you saw 15 people this week. Like, are you dying? Are you exhausted?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I feel so good." I can have really horrible things happening in life. And if I go to my office and do healings, I'm like, we're all feeling better because I'm receiving the energy, they're receiving the energy. And so you receive a healing when you give a healing. And that's part of what you're experiencing.
Yes, I agree. I agree. It is really amazing. And I also do kind of like, talk therapy-esque, with coaching work. And at a certain point, I get drained by coaching. I used to do live sessions. I could really only do 3 a day. And now I do more like asynchronous back and forth voice noting, and it fits in better. But but when I'm on a psychedelic retreat and I am giving like 3 Reiki sessions a day, I feel fine. I feel great. It's like amazing. So yeah, I do notice that too.
Now, I just want to say for you guys, like, I think you're probably all very empathic, like I said. So there is a certain dance that has to be done for you to hold your boundaries while you're doing this, because we can be very spongy. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced feeling spongy. Like if you feel like I've gone through life and I've actually, most of us use that word. Why do I feel so spongy around people? But I feel like when you do have that magic, and then you can also tip it over and be like, crap, I feel like I'm, hungover and I am exhausted and I didn't watch my boundaries there. Or I gave, and that usually happens, you guys, when we try to force the healing, when we put our own energy into it. And that's the skill set of learning Reiki that's beautiful, is you have to learn how to let go and just trust. And a lot of us don't know how to do that. So we try to get in there and we're like, I'm going to make this heal and I'm going to do this. And you start really forcing your own energy into it, which is exhausting, and which is why we end up feeling bad, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it really does. And I think you bring up a really good point too, because part of being taught Reiki or energy work is to understand how to hold your own energetic boundaries. But I feel like this would be of service to explain to anybody, right? Whether, we all need to understand how to hold our energetic boundaries. So how do you take good care of your energetic boundaries, your own energy field, so that you're not actually absorbing other people's pain?
So
Michelle,
simple.
yeah.
So simple. You have to get off autopilot. You have
Mhm.
to show up. Like the second you show up and you're like, I'm present, you're present. That right there just put a shield up around you. When
Hmm.
we're like, oh, we're just like kind of not present, and this is just in life, when we're just on
Yeah.
autopilot, go, 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 and we're hanging out with people who are negative and complaining, or, most of us have those people around us that we want they're in, or maybe just there's in a really bad place and we just want to help them, but like we're finding it tiresome to keep going back to that energy. Like we have to recognize that we need to be present. So when I'm sitting with somebody and that starts happening, I sit back. I'm like, oop, vump, I'm back in my body. I recognize what's happening. I can feel that I'm feeling drained. And I
Yep.
literally will drop a glass wall in front of me. And I will literally, just literally, I know it sounds crazy, but remember that idea that everything you perceive is real to your body. So, like,
Yep.
it doesn't know the difference between perception and real. When I
Yep.
drop a glass shield in front of me, even in therapy, I will do that because it's time for my body, like, is taking on too much and I'm realizing it. And the second that I do that, I feel better. I start to replenish. And then I really just go through and imagine. I have and I'd be happy to share it. I have basically it's a method that I have. It's called the squeegee. It's silly, but it's a meditation that you can go through in 10 minutes that teaches you the skill of how to clear your energy field. And it's game changer. Most people, I have people that have never done any energy work. They come to my office and I try the squeegee and they're like, what? I'm like, the squeegee. And they do it and they're like, that was insane, Michelle. Like I felt like a different person. I've literally gotten rid of cold symptoms doing the squeegee because I'm like, oh, that
Wow.
wasn't even really mine. So I'd be happy to share that if it helps.
Yes, I'll make sure to get that link from you and we can share it along with the replay for everybody. So I love that you're talking about being an empath and why empaths might particularly need Reiki for both physical and emotional issues. But another thing that you share on your website is about how Reiki can help us tame our inner critic.
Mm.
And you said
Mhm.
you work with a lot of women who like are very much approval seeking, which probably means like we're looking to someone else to validate us because we probably have a horrible inner critic in the way we talk to ourselves. We want somebody else to be much nicer to us, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, can you connect the dots there? How? How does Reiki help someone tame their inner critic?
So when you're learning Reiki, one of the things we struggle with the most, like, I don't know, if you guys were to sign up for a Reiki class right now, if you haven't done it already, you might start to feel a little anxious. You might start to feel like, oh, am I going to be the dud, right? I'm going to go there and I'm going to be the one that doesn't feel anything. And everybody's like, oh my God. And all these psychic hits are coming through and you're going to be the dud, right? That's what we all kind of fear. Because that is how we do one thing is how we do everything, right? So if that's how you show up to it, that's probably how you show up in life, right? Like that you're feeling insecure or somehow this kind of stuff shows up for you. And so when we look at Reiki, learning Reiki, I also liken it to becoming more intuitive. Like if you're interested in learning how to become more intuitive, how to actually access your intuition, receive information, psychic guidance, it's the same thing. It's opening up your energy field and receiving something. And a lot of us aren't good receivers, we're good givers. And so learning how to be a good receiver, learning how to be in that flow requires us to go inward and trust ourselves.
Mhm.
And that is not a skill set we teach in school. Like
Yep.
none of you probably really learned like, oh, go inside and trust yourself. You were probably said like, no, come home and ask your mother my opinion and I'll tell you what it is, right?
Yeah.
So we didn't learn that. And so when you're I mean, with me, every Reiki teacher has its own flavor and how they deliver. But like for me, it's like I am teaching people how to go inward to get the information they want. And then I challenge you, like, you're going to pick out what you're going to wear tomorrow. Don't ask anybody, right? If you're going to make a decision, I want you to just spend the next week going inward and saying, what do I want? So many of us are so unaware of our preferences because
Mhm.
we've somehow been sort of trained to be worried about what everybody else thinks and that
Yep.
other people are more important. And so Reiki teaches you to go inward for that stuff. It teaches you to go in and trust what you're receiving. Because with Reiki, that is common that if you it is common as you practice that you start to receive more intuitive information because you're opening up and you're opening your energy field up and actually being in your body and being open is one of the key factors of receiving intuition. So we talked about getting off that autopilot, we were talking about when you're like, go, 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 go. And you're like, who drank my coffee? Oh, it was me, right? Like that feeling of like not being present. That is how we block our intuition. And so when you practice Reiki, you're learning how to be still. And I have had people come into class, you guys, who feel like, I can't sit for 10 minutes. I'll want to gouge my eyes out. Like, I can't sit still and be quiet. That sounds awful, Michelle. And I was like, well, we have work to do, right? Like, it's a very important practice to be able to be with yourself. It's going to heal everything to be able to be with yourself, So does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, Reiki connects you more with an inner relationship with yourself and hearing more the voice of your own intuition, which is the opposite of your inner critic. Your inner critic is like this internalized voice of all of the expectations of the systems and the external authority systems around us that we've just internalized. And the inner critic is our ego, right? But it's trying to help us, but it usually takes on this like mean voice, that we grew up hearing, like, don't be your natural self. You need to, don't ask the question that's popping into your head right now. You're going to annoy somebody else, right? Like, care about other people. Don't just care all about yourself, right? But it gets like totally amplified and turns into this like voice of like, you idiot, nothing that you think or do naturally is at all appropriate, right? And it's just so sad that becomes the case. But Reiki, you're saying, really helps us to reconnect with our own internal nature as actually being the most appropriate thing in the world and the most wise and loving thing. Yeah.
And it's stepping into a new sense of power. And you guys, I'm sure, can relate to this, that a lot of the times our inner critic shows up after an event too, right? So like you're like feeling really crappy about what you said. And then you're like, I'm in the shower and I'm having the conversation 4 different times in 4 different ways. And I wish I said it, right? And so we can get so caught up in that piece. And really, we're looking at healing and stepping into power, because everything to do with your inner critic tends to be how you self-sabotage. Like, it's how we self-sabotage. It's how you be powerless. You're like, how am I powerless, Michelle? I'm like, well, let's talk about your inner critic. Like, what happens? How do you sabotage yourself? You go out and you break the ceiling a bit at work and you try something new, or you expand yourself in a new relationship and you put yourself out there, or you do stuff. It's a little scary. And then the shame dump comes on after, right? We're like, oh my God, what did I say and do? And it probably was fine, right? But it's how we self-sabotage. And so Reiki really helps us show up for that. And no, I trust myself. I'm learning to listen and trust. And that was my intuitive nudge, was to go get that job or open up to this person, or,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I have a question here in the chat for you from Anne Marie, and also for anybody else here, if you have any questions for Michelle, or just any reflections. I want to transition into a little bit of time for us to ask questions and share what's been resonating for you about anything that Michelle has said so far, or maybe like a takeaway that you have. But yeah, let's move into this. So Anne Marie is asking, so as a receiver of Reiki, do I have to learn how to receive it? Is that part of what you do as a healer? Do the levels refer to the Reiki teacher or to the receiver? And how can we learn to accept the healing?
I love that. That's a great question. Yes. Yes and yes. But I want to just expand this a little bit, because how much you receive is how much you will create in your life, how much you'll be able to have. If you can't receive money, you're not going to have a lot of money. If you can't receive certain amounts of things in your life, you won't be able to have them in your life. There are these limiting beliefs that are getting in the way of you being able to receive, to expand. So we do have to sort of address that in Reiki a little bit. But yes, we are teaching you. It's funny. We have to teach the body first in Reiki for me. Like, that's how I do it. I'm like, okay, everybody, I can see them. They're all at the table. They're like this. They're trying to heal, right? They're mathematically like, is this the right hand position? Is this the right? And that's how it feels when you're learning. You really play with this stuff after you learn it, because a lot of us are, myself, I'm in my head a lot when I'm learning. But I'll say, okay, stop. I want every person to be spaghetti and act like it. And so they have to become spaghetti. I'm like, you have to be spaghetti And then take a deep breath and get back in your body and literally feel your toes and ground. And from that
Mhm.
place, we can be better receivers. And so you actually have to learn to stay grounded while receiving, because a lot of us get anxious about receiving and get up in our heads. Because most of the time, I mean, what's it like for you when someone says, "Hey, let me do this really big, amazing thing for you"?
Mm.
How does that make you feel in your body? I'm going to go out of my way. I'm taking my whole day off from work and I want to do this a really amazing thing for you. Are you game? And you're like, I don't know. Like, what are you going to do? And how much is that? That's going to take a lot from you, right? Like, we get very
Mhm.
uncomfortable in our bodies with receiving. And so, part of Reiki and the training is like, how do I just relax while still receiving? Because we don't think
Mhm.
we're worthy of it. We don't think we're good enough, right? There are all these limiting beliefs come up. And that's why I said, how are you going to feel? And you right before your first class, because a lot of us are facing some limiting fears, right? That like, I'm not going to be good enough. Or does that help? Does that answer your question? Is it Amy?
Anne Marie.
Anne
Yeah.
Marie.
Do you feel complete, Anne Marie?
Yeah, I think the second part of the question really is, can you explain the levels? Is that about the teacher, or you said come to a class and they got to this level, and then a second is, do you learn as the receiver those levels, or are you saying as the teacher those are levels?
Great question. So that means that when you're learning Reiki, so you have to go through 3 levels as a student. And so as a student, you start at level 1. Many people teach 1 and 2 together, or you can teach it separately. I like to teach it together because 1 and 2 really complement each other. I kind of want to get 1 out of the way because we're still going to do all the same learning that we do with 2. And so I teach, for instance, you'll see people who do like I do 2 Monday evenings and then a full day Saturday as just like getting into the energy and learning it, going home, practicing level 1. So level 1, you are not learning any of the symbols, but you can start to practice just what it's like to play with energy. You can heal your plants, your vitamins, your kids, your dogs, you can do all of that, but you're not using the symbols. And that just teaches you the difference between what it feels like to play with energy with no symbols, and then what it feels like to play with energy of the symbols, which is more of this like laser beam versus a floodlight. Like it just kind of comes in stronger. And so that's part of the practice between 1 and 2, as well as a million other developments that you're going through, and then master level is its own 4-week expanded class, right? So like you are sort of going through each step yourself. You'll receive a certificate for it, like you'll be like, but level 2 is the practitioner level. So if you were ever curious about ever doing this out in the world, because, we need you. So if you're ever curious about doing this out in the world and it started to click and you're like, I never thought of this, but this feels amazing. And I want to help people. I want to do this. Level 2 is all you need to go out into the world, charge money and receive and do this work. I do tell people, obviously ethically, you're going to be getting your practice in first, and then before you charge, and then you're going to charge lower rates when you're just getting started. And it's a process, but it's totally possible. And it's just level 2.
Hmm. Okay. So I think, Anne Marie, I think I understand better what you're asking. To receive Reiki, like to just go receive Reiki from a healer, you don't have to be a student
Oh,
yourself.
is
Yeah.
that what you were asking? I'm sorry.
You don't have to go through any training yourself, but I like that Michelle explained the differences between the levels, because I'm sure a lot of people are interested in becoming perhaps Reiki practitioners.
Mhm.
But it also just sounds like, from what Michelle described, and I definitely feel this way from going through Reiki training, if you just do Reiki 1, like I think it actually does help you better to receive Reiki as well, because you understand more about what's happening. You understand like the philosophical foundations of it, and you practice playing with energy. And I think that that actually opens you up more to your own ability to receive Reiki healing as well. And you kind of get to practice with each other as well if you go to like a Reiki class. So I personally feel like getting trained and being able to provide Reiki to others actually helped me to be a more open
Better
recipient.
receiver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Over time. Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody else have any questions or any reflections that you'd like to share with Michelle about something that she shared that resonated with you? You can type in the chat or you can unmute.
I just wanted to say thank you because I always tell Jess stuff like this. Like, you hear stuff all the time, but then like one day it just really clicks when you hear it. And so
Mhm.
when you were talking about like, so I did do the Reiki class, 1 and 2, and I think I would like to take more classes. I just like learning from different people. I feel like
Mhm.
different people offer different modalities and tools and stuff. So I would be interested in maybe trying a different class just to see if they offer different insight or different techniques that maybe I didn't get the first time. But I have trouble receiving.
Mhm.
I'm a giver. And so, I mean, I think most women are just nurturers. And so when you said, if you have trouble receiving, then it kind of blocks things. And I think that's my problem when I try to give Reiki is that I try to give Reiki and I
Yes.
don't let Reiki flow. Like I'm not the vessel, I'm the healer
Mhm.
when I try. And so when you said that and you said like you're the vessel, um, and not the actual healer, and that like if you have trouble receiving and you're a giver, then it could kind of mess things up. And I think that's my problem with Reiki. And that's why I haven't really been doing it because I do feel like because I'm giving the energy, I always feel like depleted, even though I like put my shield, like, I protect
Mhm.
myself and I ask Jesus and God to like, keep me safe and just use me, to do. I say that to them as my prayer for protection, but I still like try to control it. So when you said that, I really like resonated with that. And I think I want to like give it another try with the intention of like just so when you said that, I kind of just imagined like this sounds weird, but like me as like a pipe and like liquid like God source just flowing like through my crown, like, and then liquid like healing out of my hand, like where it's literally like flowing instead of the light where like I'm the light in my vision. So when I'm giving healing light, I feel like I'm giving them my healing light, but when I imagine
Mm.
liquid, like I was separate from I don't know. Am I making sense?
100%. Like this is the gold right now. Like
Yeah,
this is amazing.
yeah.
Yes.
So that was so helpful, and it was my like aha click moment where I'm like, "Oh, like I'm giving me. I'm not the vessel." Cuz I would like obviously the light and the healing to come from God and Jesus. That's where I feel the healing comes from. Like
Mhm.
even when you were saying how people like just believe that like you can heal them, and it just reminded me of Jesus, how like that lady just to like touch his garment and like she
Mhm. Mhm.
herself, and it wasn't him, it was her belief that like he could heal her. And I don't know, that just like really resonated with me. So like a lot of the things you said I just really appreciate because it clicked for me, so I appreciate
Thank you. I'm so glad. And thank you for sharing that. I want to say, though, I want to really humanize this. Okay. So we are humans down here doing God's work, right? So, like, we're humans here.
it. Mhm.
And so, also, your gifts are going to expand. And I can feel that already for you. Like, should you choose to continue down this path, your gifts are going to expand. And here's what gets tricky is we want to start using, like, sometimes I'll have medical mediumship, right? Where I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, they're starting to show me the veins as a pathway and they're showing me where something is happening and they're showing me inflammation and they're showing me, and it's like, oh, that's sometimes up here and it's like me kind of getting in the way, right? So it's me orchestrating, trying to control things that are happening. And so what I teach in Reiki is that it's not that it's all bad for you to be in the way and to stop being the vessel, right? It's that you're going to do that, but your job is to notice, whoa, I've been doing that. And that's when I step back and say, okay, I'm out of the way. And then literally we'll hear, get out of the way. And then I step back and I'm like, oh, sorry about that. And they're like, no, no, good work. I'm still doing good work when I'm in it and I'm orchestrating and I'm trying to like specifically, and then I can like, I mean, I have helped people with lots of things just because I was able to kind of utilize that gift, let's say, right? But I have to recognize when it's time to get back into filling. And being the vessel means you're also filling with the same energy. I imagine it running around me and down my arms and through me. So it's filling me and it's filling them. I love the liquid. Like imagine the liquid is flowing around you and through you at the same time. So everybody's getting refilled because I need to get refilled after I got involved because right? Or maybe my ego is in it and I'm trying to like fix everything and I'm like, "Oh, okay." That's the balance. That's what you're going to do around the session. You just have to keep coming back to source, God energy, whatever, bringing that in and funneling it through and rebalancing and making sure you're clearing at the end.
And when you clear at the end, are you just kind of like imagining it just like your body refilling to like your state that you were before the Reiki session?
Yes. So I am stepping away from their feet and I am doing this clearing. Well, you could honestly, I think you're going to love this squeegee. Like the squeegee is like, it's incredible. Like I do the squeegee, it's gone, it's received, it's over. I'm cleared. But this is when, I don't know if you guys want me to get into this. I'll take 2 seconds with this, but this is when mediumships can start to happen even more. A lot of people think that mediumship is in the field, but mediumship is outside the field. So after you clear and detach from them, you can get clearer stuff if that's ever something interesting to you, where you're like, oh, I'm feeling something. I'm just going to play with this and see who this is. I'm just going to like allow some things in. That happens outside the field. So when you are cleared up and you want to stand back and you want to do something else to give or ask for any messages that you want to give at the end of the session that feels good, you can just take that time. So it's not that you have to be so disconnected from the person that you're no longer working with them, but you want to clear the energy and then you can open yourself up to receiving your own guidance. You don't have to be in their field to receive that stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
This is really cool. I kind of like envision what you're saying as like this idea of like getting out of the way. It's like when you go to like get like a fountain drink and you just get just plain water or it's infused with flavor, right? And so like, or if it's soda water, right? Then all they're doing is mixing Diet Coke syrup with soda water, right? And then, but there's usually a little button that just says water or soda, right? And you can press just that button. And I look at it like, okay, when you are getting out of the way, it's removing your own flavor from the situation. And it's just like allowing to be pure water flowing through you to that person.
I love that.
Yeah. And then when you kind of come back online, you're like, oh, but wait, like maybe this person needs some Diet Coke right now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, they probably do. They're coming to you because they like you and they like your spiritual gifts and they like, you know, the skills that you have learned in this lifetime that you can actually be of service when you come back in and bring your flavor back in. But there's also a time and space for just your flavor to get completely out of the way and step aside. And that serves a special purpose as well.
Yeah. I love that. It's a great analogy.
Yeah. Yeah. So Anne Marie's asking another really great question. How can Reiki work remotely? How can it work when you're not in the same room?
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It is. It's nuts. And yes, it works. There's actually this, so again, the energy psychology people have incredible like research. It's insane. You know who has really great research, talks about it? I know Heart Math Institute does. Joe Dispenza has a lot of really great research in his books. I don't know if you guys know just Joe Dispenza. At one point, there was a research I learned through the Energy Psychology Association of Comprehensive Energy Psychology. And they do this whole pack of research. And so I was learning about some of it. And they did this research where they had somebody here in the US have somebody in a building. I think it was Japan, but it was somebody somewhere out there. And they had a box, and inside the box was a light. And when and here we had a box with a light. And when we looked at the light, strangely enough, the light turns on. The energy gets received and it actually turns the light on by looking at it. And then they visualized looking at the light in Japan, and the light turned on just by visualizing looking at the light. So we do not understand time, space, continuum. We do not understand. Like our little pea-sized little brains can't really understand the whole orchestration of what's happening. But the truth is that sometimes my long distance healings can even be more powerful than my in-person healings because of that receiving factor. Mm-hmm. People do not have their guard up to receiving when they're sitting at home and I'm not in the room touching them. Some people truly need the touch factor. They really need to feel you right there, feel all the sensations that they feel. And some people feel extreme sensations. You know, I've had people heal on me and I'm like, okay, you're at my left shoulder. I can literally feel where they are. So in Reiki, we use a specific symbol to send that energy, but I do other modalities. You know, you don't need that symbol in order to send energy. You can say, let's say you were trained in something and you wanted to do energy work. You can just imagine the person in front of you like picture them. I usually put them about this big, and then or I make them bigger, and I just work on them as if they're in front of me. I kind of like, I put them on a lazy Susan, I spin them around and do all these different things. And sometimes, I mean, some of those people that really believe that I'm going to heal them and contact me anywhere in the world where they are are my long distance healing people, a lot of them, and it's very powerful and it's crazy. And I mean, we could get into some of the quantum physics around it, right? Like the energy effect. I mean, everything, I don't want to get too crazy, but everything has the same molecular structure. So if something fell from Mars and came to Earth or from space, it would have the same structure as every single thing that is here. And that's like molecule, atom, nucleus. Speed of light energy is at the center of every one of our cells. That speed of light energy is involved in the transportation of, everything. I mean, the information that runs in that we can't even fathom, right? There's certain aspects of the Earth's buzz that is equivalent to the human heartbeat. There's like when people in space can record what the Earth sounds like, it's like there's a coherency to it all that we are, lots of people can speak better than me on. But it happens. Yeah. Isn't it crazy? Like, it's really mad. It's neat. In my classes, like I have people in one room and then in my waiting room, and then they work on people in the other room, and they're like, I feel it. It's like really crazy.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. I would also highly recommend looking up this concept called what Einstein called spooky action at a distance.
Ooh.
And so Einstein had a really hard time understanding this as well in terms of quantum entanglement. And he didn't know how else to describe it except for spooky action at a distance, because these particles that were entangled with each other, basically like dividing the particle in half. And now it's two different particles. And no matter how much distance he put between them, when he would do something to one particle, it would happen simultaneously to the other particle at the same time. So he was not understanding, like, well, if I'm doing this here, it can't be communicating something through space and time to this other particle. It's happening literally at the same time. And so he surmised basically like they are still the same particle. And so that space and time basically don't exist because it's literally happening at the same exact time. And he called it spooky action at a distance. And so when we connect with each other's energetic field throughout space and time, those things fall away. It doesn't matter that you're not physically in the same room. It can still be happening at the same time. And so when I do distance Reiki, I tell people they don't even have to be receiving Reiki at the same time that I'm sending Reiki. They can just do it on their own time. And I love that you kind of explain what you do, Michelle, to kind of like imagine them and like a lazy Susan and everything, because visualization is very important for the person who is sending Reiki. And I like to do the same thing. I imagine the person in the room with me. In fact, I lay out like a crystal grid for their chakra systems in front of me, and like that it's the same size as a person in front of me, as though I am literally administering Reiki if you were in the room with me. And I kind of like create that setup because that helps me to be able to send it. So yeah, we're getting ready to wrap up here today. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for your thoughtful questions. Michelle, thank you for sharing all of your wisdom with us. And I know you have a couple of offerings coming up that I wanted to give you a chance to share about your upcoming healing and your boundaries workshop.
Yeah, so I actually do group healings online. So that is something that would be available to you guys. They do fill up quick. So I would totally make it open to you guys first. So since we're here today, I think she has a link there. You can learn more about it. I do in these healings something called a motion code, as well as Reiki and a couple different modalities of energy healing. So when you come into a group healing, I keep it intimate. I don't go over 8. And basically I go through and heal and release specific to you emotions that are trapped in the body that are blocking the system for you to kind of get into that next level of yourself, what you're trying to do in life. And also just to feel better. We can heal physical ailments. We can help feel emotional stuff, self-sabotage stuff, all that stuff. And so that is through what I call the release. It's the release event. And so I do that periodically, and I'm having another one coming up on June 9th. And so you guys, I've not told anybody yet. So if you wanted to, if you were interested, you can feel free to join early. And you'll get a spot. So, and then I also do something called the Modern Empath's Boundary Mastery. And so this is this beautiful thing that I've tried to birth for like 3 years. But I did this as a boot camp live with women, and now I turned it into an online course and group coaching program. And we just walk through the first phase is 4 weeks of diving into your limiting beliefs, what it is for you to step into your power, all of this stuff that's all to do with your relationship with yourself. And it's all about setting a soulful goal for yourself. And then we move in for the relationships with other people. So we spend 4 weeks looking at, as an empath, how you're showing up in your relationships, what to say, what to do, how to be, and then the third is really raising our vibration. So that third phase is the last 4 weeks where we work on all our energy, vibrational stuff that needs to heal and change. And so when you leave, you go in and it's hard work. Most people are like, oh my God, I'm noticing, because self-awareness is not always fun, right? People like becoming more self-aware is hard sometimes. And then we shift into the relationships with others, and that gets a little goopy at times. But then when we leave at a high note because we're doing all the high vibrational work and, retraining of thinking and thought, and how do I stay in a higher vibration longer? And so that's the program. And then we do we do a group healing for every phase where we clear stuff out at the end of that phase. So that's all that I'm offering right now, but it's my love and my heart is in a lot of those things. So I'd love to have you at the group healing. The other program doesn't open up until the fall because I'm in that process. I am learning. So I am allowing people to come into the course if they want to start spending the summer, like going through the course, because it's a lot to take in. Some of us need to do this slowly, right? I'm like, let's go. And people are like, I need another 4 weeks in just this one thing. So that is also going to be available. But thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me share that. And
yes, absolutely.
It's so lovely to meet you guys and wish you all the best of luck. I hope you guys are, drawn a little bit because we need some healers in this world, ladies. Like we need more.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's an upcoming that's happening. We're all sort of waking up, and there's a lot of people that are like starting to get it's becoming so much more clear to people that this kind of way, there's so many ways to heal, but that this is a new way to show up in this world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that learning Reiki, whether you ever want to like actually charge for it or not, is so valuable. Like I use Reiki all the time. With my daughter, whenever she's not feeling well, like I'll pray for her at night as I'm tucking her into bed. I'm sending Reiki energy to her. I send it to my husband all the time without him knowing about it when he's in a bad mood or just like whatever it might be, if he's dealing with something at work. Yeah. And so I think it just helps you to love yourself more and helps you to love your people better. And like Michelle was talking about, the through line of everything that she does is helping people step into their power. And I feel like it really does help you step into your power as well, because intention holds so much power. You can literally influence the course of your day. Like Michelle was saying, when you wake up in the morning, you can influence the course of your day. You can influence the course of your future with intention. We all set goals all the time. We make a freaking to-do list. That is intention setting. Like that is you stepping into your power when you say, I'm going to do this, and then you do it. And it's kind of the same thing with Reiki, but more on this energetic level. So I also know that Michelle is like so amazing at her work that she's got a fully booked therapy practice and does not, have any space on her calendar right now for one-on-one energy healings, but she has this really cool group healing coming up on June 9th. So I put all the links here in the chat. Also, I'm going to share it in the Cohere platform so that anybody catching the replay, or if you want to go back to that, you still have some time to sign up for that. But also, I want to let you know that I do one-on-one distance Reiki healings for anybody who's interested. And so I'll share that link there as well if you're interested in learning more. And then just really quickly before we go, as a reminder, today was a free sample of the Wild Wellness Women's Circle, and I would love to have you become a member if you are not one yet. And so for the people who are here who are members, or just anybody who's interested, I want to tell you about what's coming up next in the Wild Wellness Women's Circle. We actually have our gathering this Thursday to celebrate Beltane, which is one of the 8 holidays in the Wheel of the Year. It is the halfway point between spring equinox and summer solstice. And it's really just celebrating how much nature is growing right now, and how we are also can step into that alignment with celebrating the growth in our lives. It's a season of fertility, of celebration of the light, of our own sensuality and our sexuality and our capacity to open ourselves up to all of the pleasure that is available to us right now. And if we look around in nature right now, we see it happening everywhere. Like so much pleasure. Things are fruiting, things are blossoming, things are beautiful. The bees are having a field day, having their own pleasurable experience with the blossoms all around, and they're making their honey. And it's just a beautiful time of year. So we're going to be celebrating that. It's called Summer Spark because this actually, according to the Wheel of the Year, is the entrance into summer. And then Litha, which is the summer solstice, is the peak of summer. So we're celebrating that this Thursday. And that's at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And then next week, I'm going to be teaching a workshop on how to set food boundaries, not restrictions. So that's coming up on Tuesday, May 6th, also at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Then next Thursday, the 8th, we're doing another cool kind of like interview, but workshop-esque more. We're going to be actually doing EFT together, visualization and breath work with a guest speaker, Lori Babb. And so our theme is manifesting in timelines, how to create your reality. And so she's going to be teaching us how to incorporate these intuitive tools into our manifestation practice. And then last thing for the month of May is Thursday, May 22nd, also at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We're talking about animism and earth magic. So how to connect with the earth as a relational being and connect with the more than human wisdom and realms. Michelle was mentioning earlier, we all have guides, we have helpers. Nature is a helper. The animals are helpers, the water, the elements are helpers, and also your ancestors are helpers, angels, spirit guides. Amber was mentioning she really connects with Jesus, right? And so there's so many helpers all around us. And so how can we connect with things that are non-human, but are also still very much alive and wise consciousness that's available for us to be in relationship with? And then I also, last announcement here, September 10th through the 16th, I'm hosting a psychedelic retreat in Mexico. There are now 2 spots left. And so I'm so excited that this is filling up so quickly. But for anybody who is interested and wants to talk more about that, please just reach out to me. So once again, Michelle, thank you so much for making space on your calendar to be with us today. We're sending you so much love and appreciation, and everyone will be checking out your work. And again, I'll share all of those links for everybody. So if you want to unmute and send your thanks and gratitude to Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
I loved this conversation, you guys. I thought so many really great things were brought up today to make us really think. And I think it's going to be wonderful to lead us into next week's conversation. Next week, I'm covering spiritual awakening signs and how to navigate ascension without literally losing your mind, right? A lot of people are like, what is happening to me? And it's really important to understand your spiritual growth and what these ascension symptoms actually are. A lot of us feel these things that we didn't actually ever think that we'd feel. We think of, doing all this soul work as enlightening. And it's actually really important for you to learn to see what these symptoms are, to know that it's not that you're unwell, but that you are having ascension symptoms, meaning you're expanding and you're getting bigger and energetically bigger. You're having to hold more energy. And that leads us to feel certain ways. And so I really want to jump into what this spiritual growth can really look like for you and what those symptoms are so you can know that without feeling crazy. All right. I hope you have a wonderful week. Take good care, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to Into the Work Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. Don't forget to grab your free gift, your Shadow Work Transformation Bundle at michellepoverman.com. I've included everything you need to get started to break through the patterns of self-sabotage and finally start to heal the parts of yourself that are getting in the way of truly reaching your potential. From a powerful meditation designed to help you meet and embrace your shadow self, to the guide that's full of curated prompts and important questions to support you on this journey. This really can be the work for you to unmask the root cause of all the issues you've been experiencing, honestly, and start to feel free to believe in yourself and go for what you want. The link for this free bundle is in the show notes. And if you like this episode, I would be so grateful if you could take a moment and rate, click and follow, and leave a review. Of course, you can always follow me on socials at Michelle Poverman. And keep in mind, as you embark on your journey from spark to brilliance, remember, the universe is always conspiring in favor of your awakening. Everything that's happening is in support of you lighting your own fire within. So until we meet again, may your path be well lit and your heart be guided. Shine bright, seekers, until next time.